Hello and good evening to everybody present here. I, Nisha Punjabi, along with my co-host Vaibhav Sharma, on behalf of the entire MarCquest and BigWigs team, welcome you all to an evening dedicated to quenching curiosity, learning beyond books, and interacting with the expert at the 8th online session of the BigWigs Speak Live.
Steve Forbes rightly said, your brand is the single most important investment you can make in your business. And holding on to what he said, we believe we need to develop our acumen to branding and marketing. And if we do, we will never cease to grow.
So here we are presenting you with the 8th edition of the BigWigs Speak Live, a golden opportunity to explore and deep dive into unlocking your potential with branding and marketing.
The BigWigs Speak Live, along with MarCquest, KJ Somaiya's flagship integrated marketing communication fest, is a host to some of India's most creative minds. The BigWigs Speak Live has been a platform that encourages knowledge sharing and learning amongst budding marketeers with the help of some of the brightest and most intelligent minds from the industry. We take pride in hosting some of the most respected professionals in the industry, such as Mr. K.B. Pops, Dr. Ambi Parveshwaran, Mr. Anil K. Nair, Mr. Devaya Bopanna, and today's speaker, Dr. Trisha Parekh.
Dr. Trisha Parekh, our notable alumni, has always been a marketer at heart. She has an experience of over 10 years in the field of developing and executing marketing strategies. Her ability to understand the ongoing marketing scenario with profound marketing and communication skills gives her an edge over everyone else. She has been recognized as Economic Times and Femina Best Women Leader, which is a testimony to her brilliance. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome you to the 8th edition of BigWigs Speak Live. We look forward to this enriching and enlightening session with Dr. Trisha Parekh. Thank you, Ms. Parekh, and we are grateful for your presence.
Thank you so much.
Without any further ado, let's begin this fun interactive session with Ms. Trisha. We know we're going to delve into a whirlwind of conversation today. The floor is now yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I am going to be screen sharing my screen. Perfect. So thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to come back to Somaiya. A little bit more about myself before we deep dive into what I do essentially. I've been an alumni with Somaiya batch 2010-12. After which I was placed with FCB Ulka for 2.5 years. I was into media research and strategy, a great organization if some of you are looking to join. Post that, I was teaching at Somaiya for a bit, for a year and a half or so in the marketing department. And after that, I got through my PhD in marketing with NITI, which I've recently just completed. Post that, I was with Nielsen into consumer insights. So I pretty much led into brand positioning, brand awareness, and perception and imagery for life insurance and mutual fund brands for around 2.5 years. And after that, I was in a core marketing branding role, both on the ATL, VL side with Kidzania. After that, I was in consulting for a year and a half with a brand called Jigsaw Brand Consultants, which gave me the opportunity to also work across sectors. And today I'm with a brand called XCD. It's in the space of executive education. So we provide executive education to senior leaders with over 12-15 years of work experience. So I very closely work with universities like Oxford, Cornell, Singapore Management University, Carnegie Mellon, etc., and help and try make their brands alive in the market. And what we essentially do is we provide education to senior leaders with faculty from these universities, and I handle brand marketing for both XCD as well as these brands. So that's about my work experience. And today's topic is from how have some brands become successful in the market, and how is branding and marketing essentially help these brands grow. So I'm a total believer of this one line which says that businesses build products, but it's the brand that builds relationships. And we all have seen it with brands that we consume. We only consume brands which we kind of relate to, and that's a journey that branding itself has followed over the past couple of years. Initially, branding, as we all know and we learned in all our textbooks, was only an identity mark which the cattle fieldmen used over a long period of time to just differentiate their product as an identifier. But over a period of time, we kind of realized that it's not only an identity mark, and we moved from only identifying it as a feature or an object to moving towards more of a perception or an idea. That itself also changed over a period of time when we started looking as brand as experiences. And today we are at a stage where we see brands brands as relationships that we kind of build with brands. And the stronger this relationship is, the greater is going to be your engagement, your loyalty, and your differentiation. Now, when it comes to startups, there's a lot of things that happen. I myself have been wanting to do a startup, and I have a lot of friends who, get these ideas overnight, and, we just start talking about, it'll be so cool to have your own startup. And so this really recently just happened when a friend came home just 2 days ago, and she's been discussing with me of a startup that she wanted to kind of start in the nutrition space. And we just started discussing. She has a really nice idea of a nutrition brand that she wants to build over time for a baby, because she kind of saw that the category of food for a 6 months to 1 year old baby, which she herself, being a mother, found very helpful for her own child. And she had a very clear purpose. She didn't want to kind of be a unicorn, or and that's good if you at this very start of the journey know that what's your goal. Her eventual goal was, she's able to feed 50 to 100 babies, with good nutrition at an affordable cost. And she kind of studied the entire market, and she found out that the brands that are there in the market are for charging over 1,500 rupees for like half a kg, 1 kg of food, which is pretty much expensive. And tier 2, tier 3 women cannot probably afford such a thing. And so when we just started discussing all of this, the conversation very immediately moved towards, okay, we'll do these testimonials, we will probe in this influencer, we will use social media, our website should look like this, we'll do word of mouth, we will do WhatsApp marketing. All the conversations were on marketing and how we'll scale up and how we'll do this and that. And that's how all startups think, and that's how all founders think, that it is a very fun journey, and you just can make a product and just go in the market. But essentially that's not how it works. There's a lot of back-end work that goes in building a brand, and a lot of people realize this only when they're in the market. And that's really late, because then you have to go back to the drawing board and go to the fundamentals of right from your name, logo, identity, to realize what is missing and why you're not able to become a successful brand. Because it's only 1 out of the 10 brands that become successful in the market. The rest are just there, and probably over a period of time may just not even exist. And while it is a lot of fun and all, let's really discuss some must-haves in branding and marketing, which I have laid down according to my experience that I have. Because a lot of time, again, it's only when you realize that you spend crores and crores of rupees and you're not getting the ROI, you're not getting turnover, you're not getting return customers, etc., you figure that, okay, something is not really working right. And then it's a whole back-end process, and you try and reiterate a lot of things which you should have fundamentally done in the beginning. And I truly believe that if people start with the launch date in mind, like I want to launch on, say, 15th October, because it's a very nice day to launch, and you are just gushing to that deadline. However, if you realize, if you spend that enough time, and even if it means that pushing October 15 to November 15, but making sure that everything you do is proper, that's going to be really helpful in the long run. So let's start with, and obviously branding is something that I don't need to even testify. We all know that brands, only the brands that we connect with are the brands we are going to recommend to people. We know that only if we are continuously seeing a particular brand, or continuously seeing an advertising popping up on Instagram or in Reels, etc., are the brands that are going to we are the brands that we really remember. And only if you remember the brand are you going to be able to relate to the brand and eventually go to purchase. So branding is that the first building block, if you get right, that you're going to be able to create a very successful brand. So today let's kind of discuss some fundamentals of branding, that even if it's not for startups, it's for people in midway in their journey of building a successful brand, that they should really take care of. Let's start with the purpose. All great brands that you think of or know or you buy are the ones that have a great promise and they're able to meet that promise. Now it's as simple as you being in a relationship and keeping your own promise or your own word. It's when you're going to get love from both sides. Is similar to branding. If you're able to just answer this one simple question, which is, what's that special thing only you can do that your consumers will miss out if you really did not exist? If you're able to answer this one question right, you pretty much solved at least half the puzzle. And the most successful brands are the ones who do this seamlessly. Like, you won't even know that they're actually delivering a promise when you're consuming the brands, but they really are. And if you're able to crack that, you pretty much have kind of won it already. And a brand that I think all of us can relate to is Apple, that kind of does this brilliantly with their own tagline and proposition of think different. Like, just a very simple tagline, but how they kind of relate it through and through, right from what they do, why they do, and how they do it. Most of y'all would have heard of Simon Sinek and the 3 golden circles, and if y'all haven't, please do go and check it out on LinkedIn. It's a 18-minute video, but it's something that can really crack a business and a brand strategy. Really important to know why you really exist before you think about what products you want to do, who do you want to cater to, how are you going to market, because that is something anyone can do. Anyone can build a computer company, anyone can build the products that you have the same differentiation, have the same level of competition, do a lot of variation in marketing and all of that. But if you know your core, so there's no other company which thinks like Apple and can actually match up to the tagline of think different. And just think about it, like, we are okay to buy watches, buy phones, buy any accessory that Apple has come up with, even if it's a computer company. But we don't do that for any other company. Like, I don't know anyone who will want to buy a Lenovo watch or a Dell watch. Why are we able to do that decision? Because Apple has been able to make that perception that whatever they do, they're going to be challenging the status quo. And whatever it takes, even if it's the process or it's the perfection or the simplicity that they do it with, they're able to communicate it so well because they've given the power, using their own technology. They give people the power to do anything that they desire to do and make it big in the market so they can make a difference. So even if it's think different internally, that's a philosophy that they follow internally. They also think differently in terms of how the consumer can use this technology and create a difference or an impact. And the next slide is a video that I want to show you on Apple Watch, and just see what kind of language they've used and how, using the same just the same slide, if you had to make a storyline out of it, how beautifully they do it. Is Airbnb, which also very, very smartly communicates its proposition of belong anywhere. And that's not what Airbnb really started with. It was a very different company and a different proposition when they really began. And the next slide really shows you the brand journey that Airbnb went through, and that's what it is now. I'm just going to play it.
Let's first look at Airbnb's journey to create a powerful brand positioning. Airbnb's original brand positioning was weak and unclear. It was an incomplete combination of disparate elements. Their brand idea of helping people belong wasn't clearly communicated, and the brand benefit was also unclear. They had very little to identify the brand, and the consumer experience was not differentiated nor personalized. While Airbnb was technically the world's largest accommodations provider, this weak positioning contributed towards it being among the least known. Airbnb then got closer to their consumers. They built a deep understanding of their key consumer segment identity voyages, and uncovered an insight that the unique experience of sharing a home and connecting with local hosts and communities creates a sense of belonging and a feeling of being at home anywhere. And they injected a benefit with a clear point of difference, which is to stay with friends instead of hotels. From insight and point of difference, Airbnb was able to develop a compelling brand purpose. Let's pause here to discuss who brand purpose is to create a world where all 7 billion of us can belong anywhere. Airbnb uses this compelling brand purpose to guide business decision-making, bring positioning to life across their business in a simple and inspiring way, provide actionable guidelines for cross-functional teams to deliver a consistent consumer experience, create differentiation and emotional brand connection by showing that the unique experience of sharing a home and connecting with local hosts and communities evokes a sense of belonging. And it inspired their campaign idea, when you travel on Airbnb, you're never a stranger. With deep consumer insights, a clear differentiation point, and a compelling brand purpose, Airbnb then went on to create a brand positioning that was powerful, credible, and relevant. Expressed as belong anywhere, this new positioning delivered a paradigm shift in their business and the tourism industry. Airbnb was able to bring their powerful brand positioning to life throughout their consumer experience and unify the vision of the company with every aspect of its product offerings, marketing campaigns, hosts and guest communities, and employer-employee relationships. They created communities with groups and Airbnb mentors. To rid the world of strangers, one person at a time, Airbnb gave 100,000 hosts $10 each and asked the hosts to use the money for personal and creative acts of hospitality, like making friendship bracelets to share with strangers or planting seeds in a community garden. They were encouraged to upload their experiences onto a microsite called One Less Stranger. They inspired social impact experience offerings like Neighbors in Need. Employee experience is shaped by purpose, and values extend beyond employees to its community of hosts and guests. As Airbnb's global head of employee experience says, "We don't have our values up so much on the walls as we do in our hearts and minds." As part of the booking experience, both the host and guests submit reviews, which helps to shape the consumer experience towards the belong anywhere direction. Through experiential marketing, Airbnb provides access for everyone to places they might never have thought they could go, from igloos to tree houses to a night at Galeries Lafayette in Paris. And Airbnb's strong brand positioning continues to inspire their future endeavors as they extend their consumer experience with the launch of Trips, a service within its app which comprises experiences, places, and homes, and flights and services. The experiential elements of the offering gave travelers access to locals' knowledge, skills, work, or social life, serving up the chance to sample a range of activities that can traverse from samurai swordplay to truffle hunting. Airbnb also brought their brand positioning to life through their Never a Stranger brand campaign.
Dear stranger, when I booked this trip, my friend said I was crazy. Why would I stay in someone else's house? But this morning, a city I've never been to felt like one I already knew. Everyone in your neighborhood was so warm and friendly. And your home was perfect and peaceful. Oh, and then I met your friends. They reminded me of my friends. It felt like I had known them for years. It was almost like family. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your world with me. It felt like home. Airbnb belong anywhere.
As we can see, Airbnb's positioning is manifested not just in their communications campaign, but in all aspects of the brand, including product and experience. From this Airbnb case study, we could see that their purposeful, differentiated brand drove consumer satisfaction and ultimately led to business success. In 6 years, they have hosted over 80 million guest arrivals through more than 3 million listings across 57,000 cities in 190 countries and have disrupted the ways travelers stay and experience destinations. The Never a Stranger campaign achieved an additional 14% uplift in global brand awareness and spiked web traffic around 4 times the baseline during their first look at.
So those were like two examples of both essentially not startups right now, but they both started as startups and have become successful because they had the purpose in place. Otherwise, there's so many other brands in the electronics and homestay space which haven't really got there. The next thing I really want to talk about is the voice and the tone. Very simply put, if you were to go to your grandmother or any elderly person and probably teach them how to say, for example, use WhatsApp, you'll use a very different approach where you'll go in the actual intricacies and you will tell them how to unlock the phone, how to put the password, how to go into WhatsApp, how to choose, and you'll be doing it exactly step by step. And you'll do that according to the information you know. But if you were to do the same thing with a teenager, probably the teenager is going to teach 1 or 2 more tricks to you than what you would really know, and the tone is going to be really different. And this is what tone essentially means. A lot of brands who feel that the voice and the tone is the same thing, but it's not. The voice is the overall verbal persona attitude that a brand should have, but the tone is how you're going to change, how you're going to adapt that attitude and the verbal language you have to different sets of audiences according to different situations, and that's really, really important. A lot of brands just stick on visual guidelines, the ones which are tangible, the ones that you can see, which is your logo, your color, the images you use, the typography, and all of that. But a lot of brands miss something that I call as emotional guidelines. These are the guidelines that are going to help you to build a relationship with your consumers. And we as consumers, ourselves as consumers, know that we only connect to brands or invest in brands who really understand us. An example of a brand that I can think of who has a brilliant voice and tone is Indigo Airlines, a brand that cuts across all the other airlines brands that are in the market for 2 simple reasons. They know that that the proposition of being on time every time is something that they have done internally in terms of operational excellence. But something else that they really are excellent in is putting the customer at the center of everything they do and being able to really understand the consumer and using the voice and the tonality the consumer understands. For example, this message on the bottom left, which is leave your toothbrush behind, and that they do same-day travel flights. I mean, it could have just been the reverse, right? If they wanted to write, they could have just written that, we are introducing same-day travels back and forth across cities. But that's not something that's going to catch a consumer, right? It's taglines or messaging that, which is very simple. For example, oil is well. That it is a pun that they are using, but it's when you're scrolling your Instagram, it's the 1 milli 0.45 or 0.56 seconds that you're looking at the post, and if that punchline is not right, you probably are not even going to identify the brand. But Indigo, for example, if you're sleeping and it's a blue and a white thing, even if they don't even write Indigo but they write 6C, that's what is Indigo. And 6C essentially is only a code that was given to Indigo by the IATA, and it was not something that they had to pick on, but they took that as an indicator, as an identifier, and use it across communication. So even when they're introducing products, for example, the meals are called 6C meals, the magazine is called Hello 6C. 6C Flex is a product that they have for flexible bookings. And they also use it very nicely in communication, in the WhatsApp messaging or in posters, to kind of keep reiterating that, we stand for something which is only ours. And that tonality is something that that even if another brand that's in the market who, essentially is the same in operational excellence and does everything right, just like Indigo, they will not be able to match this, because this is something that is a tone and voice that's unique to Indigo. Another thing that, we all put a lot of, there are people who put a lot of time in this, and there are people who, just pick a name that just really makes sense to them. But overall, just like we have our own names which are given to us by our parents, some put a lot of thought, some do not put a lot of thought, but it's something that sticks to us for life unless, we want to change it. Similarly, brand name is also, it's a long process. And, the essential 3 or 4 very simple factors that, people should keep in mind is keep the pronunciation and the spelling simple. Think of it across geographies, across languages, so it's simple to pronounce, easy to remember. It's something that, can, if you're thinking of diversifying or any of that, it's easy for it to expand. It's of course it has to be available. You won't have a domain name otherwise, and that it fits with your brand voice. It's very important that your brand fits with the voice and tone that you have. Another important thing that a lot of brands miss is correlating the brand name with brand architecture. A simple example, for example, is Mamaearth. When they started off, as a baby brand, or baby and a mother brand, and today, which is by the name Mamaearth, and today they are into the entire personal care category, even in the men's category, which kind of does not relate to Mamaearth, but as the brand is doing well, they are now into men, into women, into babies and kids. But if you really want to think about your brand and you want to think about a name that can sustain for a very long time, the brand architecture is something that you should kind of study on. There are 4 different levels in a brand architecture. Starting from left hand side, the branded house. It's very simple. Just look at the logos given here. So a branded house is where you give the most important and the most emphasis on the brand name. For example, FedEx, and the descriptor is kind of the product lines that FedEx has, which can keep changing, and they keep changing the color depending on the different category that they have. The next is the opposite of that, where you give more emphasis, while the favicon stays the same, the Apple logo stays the same. You try and put the product name directly in as big as the logo, be it iPhone, iPad, or TV. So it's very easy to identify, because it works for Apple because Apple has already made its mark, and everyone knows that image stands for Apple, and it can just be really simple. They don't need to have another company name with Apple and then put iPhone as a descriptor. Endorsed brands is something what Marriott and a lot of FMCG companies also do. Like, for example, even Nestle does this, is where they have used the legacy. Even Tata does this, where they use the legacy of the brand that they've created over so many years, and also have another brand, like, for example, Fairfield Marriott or Courtyard Marriott or Marriott Resorts, where they use the word Marriott, or this can be different abbreviations. They can have by Marriott in a Marriott company example. Similarly, what Nestle does is, if you see all the wrappers that Nestle has, they like a Milo or a Kit Kat or any of those, they do have Nestle still written on it. And it is a choice. For example, over the period of time where Maggie has made such a big brand, they have really not used Nestle in the ILU unit, which was used earlier. So it is completely the decision of the brand owner, and it is a long-term strategy that brand should think at the very beginning. The last one is house of brands, where if you're a conglomerate brand and you are going to have a lot of brands and you want to make each brand a different identity, then this is the way to go, where Wix has no relation with Tide, but we all know that it is under one roof. So when you're thinking of a name, do also think about the architecture, because you don't want to get into that hassle in the next 15-20 years when you want to expand, but you have made those certain limitations with yourself at the very beginning. Moving forward is once you probably have done the name, the next thing that comes is logo. Now, a lot of startup founders, hire a lot of people, get some creative insights, and play around with the logo, which is good. You should have a very unique logo. But logo is not everything. It is an important part, definitely, but more than the logo is how you build your brand identity, how you build your brand environment, because it is this environment, the environment that you make, which acts as a long-term market. It's almost like a permanent marketing tool that you have that will dictate all your short-term marketing campaigns, and that's what is going to make you successful. So what is this brand environment, and how do you really make it? So now again, in the brand environment space also, there are different viewpoints. There are some people who feel that if you make like a branding environment, and you're kind of limiting yourself because you choose a typography, and then what if you don't want to choose the typography? What if you don't want to use the typography? But that again will make you inconsistent, and we all know that if you're consistent, if you kind of keep consistently keeping your brand imagery constant, that's what is going to stay in the consumer's mind, because it's not about what you want to do, it is about how it's going to impact your consumer. So every time if you're going to be changing a color from a red to orange, yellow, green, no one's going to be relating to you at all. Instead of that, I would rather show red like 5 million times than keep changing my color, because no one's really going to remember you. You have to, every time you make that's what I do. Every time you make a change in any of your branding collaterals or marketing collaterals, you have to know that you are just one brand versus the 1 million brands that are in the market. And if you want to stand out in that 1 million, you have to do something which is consistent, which talks to only your brand, and which is going to kind of make you unique. So here's an example of Upgrad, I think, who does this brilliantly. I am going to share my screen to give you an example of how Upgrad changed its logo and what is the philosophy that they really followed. I hope you can see this. So what Upgrad essentially did was this is the new logo that they have, and red, of course, was a color they chose because red stands for passion, love, professionalism, leadership, which is something that they as a brand wanted to relate to. If you see the G, which actually stands for graduation or upliftment, and there's an arrow that they have made in the bottom of G, which is identifier for Upgrad and all the communication that they do. Besides, the capital G also stands for something that is professional but yet approachable, is as how they kind of say it as. And even if they're not using the entire Upgrad name in different forms, they make sure that this arrow, which is the indicator, every time you see this arrow and the entire thing, this is also a G, if you see that, is because they believe in the sales, that whatever Upgrad does, which is essentially selling executive education programs and education programs for developing careers and upskilling and reskilling, they are being a brand who is going to give you that upliftment, and the arrow is the best indicator for that. So across the system, any collateral, be it visiting cards, be it icons, be it things like even t-shirts and hoodies, everything is aligned, and they've been really effective at doing this, where 3 words that they stand for, which is premium, professionalism, and personal qualities of the brand, are set in stone for anything that Upgrad does. And you see it across channels, be it TVC, be it outdoor, be it print, be it digital, be it any other collateral you can think of. Even when they are in events and stuff like that, they make sure that they carry the identity forward. Moving ahead, so once you have it, so till now we've discussed things like we've discussed the name, we've discussed the logo, we've discussed the identity, we've discussed the brand environment, and we've discussed the purpose. Now, all of these essentially are the branding pillars. And once you have all of this in place, and of course, you also have your product and your team and all of that in place, this is going to lead you to your GTM, as we call it, the go-to strategy, the go-to marketing strategy that you have. And all of this branding precedes, great marketing. And let's quickly discuss two good examples of how startup have successfully marketed themselves. The first example I can think of is Boat. Okay, before that, it's very important to also know that, once you have created all of this magic, okay, till it's indoors, till, only you and your co-founder and 5 people in your team know about it, that's doing no good. You have to have the courage, and you have to have that capital investment in the very beginning to be able to take this into the market, which means it's very important to know that, social media works with this model that the more money you invest, the more returns you're going to get. And it is as simple as that. If you are not going to be boosting your post, if you're not going to be putting money in your lead gen campaign, that many less number of people are going to watch you. And if only 5 people know you, if only 5 people are aware about you, and you do like a simple math that out of those 5 people, only 1 person is going to buy, only 1 person is going to buy, versus putting some money where instead of 5 lakh people know you. And even if it means 1% of 5 lakh, those 5,000 people are still in your consideration set. And having said that, a lot of startup people, once you're on the market, they feel that, oh shit, first month, I want to sell these many units, and I'm going to nail it in the first month itself. And all, everything is narrowed down to ROI or sales in the initial phase. And when that doesn't happen, it is really frustrating for any person. But it's very important to also know that you cannot jump the ladder. You have to follow the steps like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till you eventually become such a great brand that you can probably skip steps, because the whole world knows you. But till the time you reach that point where the whole world knows you, you will have to go through these steps. And this is something that I think all of us have learned right from our graduation days, of doing the ladder from awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, and purchase, and finally post-purchase. But it's very important when you're choosing your objectives, be it any campaign, be it whether you want to do an event, you want to do an ATL campaign, you want to do a BTL campaign, you have to know what your objective is. There are a lot of companies I know who put money into a certain platform thinking that they are going to get sales, which is the objective is awareness, but you cannot expect it to directly convert into sales if they're not even a part of the consideration set. So there are companies who have followed this process, even if it's a slow process, eventually have made a bucket of people. The most important bucket in this entire thing is consideration. Only if you're under consideration can you eventually even go into the next step. If people do not know you, no one is going to consider you, no one is going to buy you. So this is my advice to anyone who is thinking of doing a startup or is consulting or any of it. You have to assign a majority of a budget in awareness, and then keep lowering your budget with that. So once your awareness, you can put lesser money in awareness and more money in consideration. When your consideration is high, you put less money in consideration, more money on sales. So as and when you start, and give it time. You can't like hire an agency and tell them that you want this much number of sales when you just enter the market. It is unrealistic. And there are agencies who say that they can do it initially, but over a period of time, a lot of experimentation, it is pretty much known that till the whole world doesn't know you, you are still pretty much in the awareness stage itself. Having said that, let's speak about both, like I was telling you all. In the initial stage, we spoke about relationships and how brand has done that. And I think both and even OnePlus, for example, has done this brilliantly with having their own communities in place, which differentiates, from having only a very transactional relationship. For example, even Uber or Lyft or Airbnb, instead of having like a passenger host or a host guest or a passenger driver relationship. They have kind of tried to make a community, which is what Boat did with Boat Heads. Secondly, another brilliant marketing thing that Boat did was, instead of calling itself consumer electronics company, like there are millions of electronics company in this zone which has the same products as Boat has, they chose to be launched and known as a lifestyle brand, which led them to tie up with to launch it in the Lakme Fashion Week with Masaba, and thereafter a lot of sports and cricketers and a lot of other celebrities who joined Boat in the endeavor. And I haven't spoken too much about research, but coming from a research background myself, I think research is the core of everything you do. It's not only innovation. You got to be in the drill. You have to be in the market to really know what's happening in the market, which means speak to consumers. Like that is the basic advice that I think any person who's been in the corporates is going to give you, because they are the ones who are going to buy your products, and it's not about what you want to do or what you want to create. It's also about what the consumers want, and if you are able to marry both, that's something that is going to make your brand successful. So very simply, Boat has done a lot of research to really understand the pain points of consumers, because knowing what consumers want is different, and knowing what the consumer needs is very different. And through research, Boat kind of found out very simple, small things which they brought into product differentiation is, for example, the charging wire that most companies have, just wears out after a certain period of time, and they had a very small invention in that where it doesn't wear out. There were companies which gave feedback. I mean, there were consumers which gave feedback that the earphones, for example, keep falling. There are a lot of research in terms of what kind of your pods or your phones fit in a human ear, and how differently you can brand yourself, because you've got the perfect solution now. And it is this all, like, they haven't focused too much on marketing in the beginning, because they truly believed, and that's what all startups should do, is believe in the product that you have and do the research so you get the product right first. Only when you get the product and your branding right, like Boat, for example, has no relationship as a name to what they sell. It is Boat, as how simply we all know as Boat, but they have got meaning into the logo, and that meaning has come only because they've been able to communicate the purpose and what the brand stands for so well in the marketing that Boat does. Another example is Zomato, which I think does something so simply and without even, like, imagine they don't even have to put imagery in any of the communication that do. I mean, you can probably just go on Canva, use the Zomato font, and just make a creative in like 2 seconds, because they have reached that level of communication. They understand the consumer so well, the consumer language so well, that I think any sentence they write, you're going to have like millions of comments, and they have been able to do that engagement so well with the millions of emailers that you get every day. I think Zomato, according to me, does it brilliantly, where I actually open the email and see what Zomato does. And it's very important to also be part of this meme culture and moment marketing and stuff like that, because that's what strikes the most in our in a feed and in a timeline. Having said that, you have to know what relates to your brand. Just because everyone is talking about Valentine's Day or Women's Day doesn't mean that your brand has to do a post. It should have meaning to what you do. I truly believe that it's okay if you don't do a post or two, if like, don't really push your brand to do it because everyone is doing it. Do it because it serves something to your brand, or it serves your customers, giving a customer a different perception about you that they're going to remember forever. Otherwise, you're just in the market and you're just a part of the clutter, and that is really not going to help anyone. Lastly, besides everything that I've spoken about now is branding, marketing, but other key essentials are you should be willing to take risks, because it's only when you take a risk and you experimented would you know if it's going to work or no. Without that, it is something you will just keep overthinking yourself and within the team that you currently have, and Like people say, if I've made something from made a creative, I know according to me the creative is good, but till the time I show it to 5 different people and get 5 different levels of feedback, I wouldn't know if it's really good or no. Secondly, consumer, and I will stress this again and again, you will have to do that ground level research to know your consumer, listen to more than know your consumer, listen to your consumer and the needs, and keep testing and testing and testing. And you don't have to get it right every time, you just have to get it right one time. I would like to end this, and then we can move to questions after this. Is why your product is important, research is important, brand is important, marketing is important. What is most important is you. And here's a video which essentially talks about how you as a person, how you as a personal brand can actually be the differentiator, or actually can be the person who can win a deal just by doing this one simple thing. I'm just going to play this video.
Harvard Business Review called Connect Then Lead. It states they did a lot of research on thousands and thousands of leaders and salespeople, and what they found is that the two most important traits of top leaders and salespeople for influence are competency and empathy. But the order matters. I'm going to share a quick little story with you. My husband decided to trade in what we lovingly called his shopping cart of a vehicle. He called the sales guy and made an appointment, and as we're driving down, he looks at me and he says, now listen, no matter what he says, no matter what the price is, we're not buying anything today. You got that? I said, I got it. So we get to the car dealership. Out comes this sort of middle-aged, silver-haired guy. He takes one look at my husband and he says, Lee Gerstein, it is so amazing to meet you. He said, I hope you don't mind. I looked you up on LinkedIn. I like to know a little bit about the people I'm going to serve. And he said, I see that you're the past president for the National Ability Center, and my own son has autism. He said, I just want to thank you for the work that you do. My husband's eyes just lit up, right? They go into Jared's office and they start talking about autism research, about cures. This goes on for 25, 35 minutes. We stand up, we're walking to go out on the car lot. We haven't even seen a truck. My husband looks at me and he says, I think he has what we need here. Here's the thing. Jared had the competency for trucks. Jared knew about all the different models. He knew about the horsepower. He probably knew the future of self-driverless trucks. But he knew something much more important. He knew my husband, Lee. And that's why you may want to write this one down. Trust is built of 5 components, but it's empathy that gets you in the door. It's reliability, competency, integrity, and vulnerability that keep you there. But you have to lead with empathy. Both are equally important. You need to know your product, you need to know your people. But here's the thing. Before people decide what they think of your message, they decide what they think of you. Don't ever forget that. Harvard Business Review.
So that's pretty much it from my side. We can open for questions.
What a provocative and intriguing session, ma'am. We will now be opening the floor for question and answers.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. So all the questions
Hello.
have been hello. So all the questions have been directed to me, and I'll be questioning them. So the first question is, when asking brands should be thought of as a relationship, how would we justify the statement when connect is not made with the customer, and how are brands supposed to build themselves in the initial phase?
So like I said, it's a process, right? Relationships can't be built overnight. You will have to go through that process in terms of first building an identity for your brand, knowing who you are as a person. I mean, knowing who you are as a brand, and what is the perception that you want to make in the consumer's mind. And from that, try and build your marketing and try and build all the communication that you do about your brand, keeping the customer in mind, kind of know who they are, what they want, where they are, and try and build that relationship over a period of time. For example, if you kind of know that a consumer needs this particular product at this particular time and you are available at that point in time, it is going to be a recall for that consumer that I needed this, I needed whatever, and this brand was there for me, and that is going to stay with the person for life. And once you have that person locked in, it is on you of how you kind of maintain that relationship over a period of time. It's not relationships are not something that is done just once. You need to do that every single time, and you will reach a stage eventually. All brands, if done successfully, reach a stage where you don't have to explain yourselves to anyone. That you don't really need a descriptor statement, and till the time you don't reach that level, I think you have to keep nurturing relationships. Use mediums and communication and tone of voice which your consumer understands.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for the answer. Second question is, how important is personalization in experiential marketing, and what steps can business take to tailor the campaigns to specific needs and preferences for their target audience?
So personalization in today's time, personalization and customization is really important, because each consumer is different, and each segment is different, and you cannot have one strategy for all consumers. You will need to kind of again differentiate your consumers, create subcategories for consumers, and have different targeting. For example, you cannot have the same targeting for an urban mother versus a rural mother, because the beliefs are so different. The understanding of brands, the lifestyle is so different that you will need to either go to the very ground level for a rural mother, because the needs are very different, and you will need to personalize yourself to it. I don't mean that personalize where you write, you go. So there are two kinds of personalization. One is where you target individual customers and you kind of personalize it like that, versus you create a personalization for a subcategory or a sub-segment where you try and speak to the consumer. For example, there are a lot of these homegrown brands right now where just a simple, if a brand, for example, is into sustainability, and just opening the package and you see like a thank you message, or thank you that you have contributed to, say, one more tree or something like that. You have that personalization messaging that's come to you. Very simple example, email, or when you have a subject line which says, Trisha, are you eligible for this particular program, versus are you eligible? It kind of hits you different, because the brand has made that level of effort to speak to you directly, to know that this is your name, this is who you are, and I'm speaking to you. So it is something that is yours to stay, and I think technology is really helping all brands to meet this journey of personalization.
Thank you, ma'am. Third question. Can we say that brands that try to remain simple and try to connect stay relevant, or when the complexity comes in, the impact fades away, or it would just be an exaggeration?
So it'll be wrong to make a statement which is like a stereotype statement that if it's only when brands are simple, because you don't know what the complexity is, and you will need to adapt. You need to be agile. You need to be able to you need to adapt to what the business landscape or the changing global environment is. So it's not about being simple. You can be as complicated as a brand that you are, but it's important to be relevant in today's time. You cannot be promoting something, for example, which people are not using. You cannot use a language that people don't relate to. You need to use the lingo that currently relates to the current audience and the current situation. For example, COVID has taught a lot of us at work, for example, that you can work even from home, a concept that none of us even digested before COVID happened. And there are companies which have adopted to this culture so well. Similarly, in the branding place as well, I wouldn't say simplicity is a guarantee. More than simplicity, I would say adaptability. If you're able to adapt to changes according to what the situation demands. For example, if the market scenario has changed, does that mean you want to change your pricing? If you for example, when Campa came into the market, I just read today that Coke has reduced the price of its bottled the glass bottles from 15 rupees to 10 rupees. I mean, that's a 50% decrease in price just because they wanted to meet the price that Campa is offering. So that's about adapting, and it's not about being like Coke is simple, right? I mean, they have reached a level where they don't really want to even sell who they are because everyone knows what Coke is, but they adapted to the situation because they want to stay relevant to the market.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. The last question for the day. In startup
Sure.
world, which is more significant, doing things first or doing things best?
I think doing things right is the best foot forward. Does not, so it's good if you have a first home advantage. If you are a brand which has cracked product or something that doesn't exist in the market, it's always good to have that advantage. Having said that, if you don't have that first mover advantage, it is only right to do it when you think that your brand is ready. Like I said, it's okay to move a deadline, but it's better that you have that clarity first, so you don't waste time doing back and forth after a long period of time when you have invested so much and you know that you're not going to get returns.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are done with the questions. Over to Weber.
Thank you, Ms. Parekh, for this enchanting
Thank you.
session. Truth be told, we have learned more than we could have imagined, and vigor and passion
I'm
with which you
glad.
talk helped us explore world of branding and marketing in the best possible ways. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
We'd
Thank
also
you so
like to
much.
thank everyone who has joined us through YouTube Live.